Hello and welcome to the Investigators. No matter how improbable they are, get-rich-quick schemes can hold a strange attraction for many of us. They can easily induce otherwise sensible people to part with their hard-earned savings. Martin Comer has a track record for grand schemes which have left many people thousands of dollars poorer. Chris Simmond reports.
I just wanted to talk to you about all these people that claim that you've taken money on...
This is a story about bankrupt accountant Martin Comer, who convinced several people to part with their money in some extraordinary deals. Apart from his bankruptcy, he's yet to be challenged successfully by any authority in Australia.
I've lost $35,000. How much have you lost, Ken?
Right, well, it's over 100,000.
These people were caught in a complex web of bizarre transactions. In their eager search for a fast dollar or a shortcut from financial problems, some lost their life savings, others became bankrupt themselves.
Well, thanks to Martin, we've lost over $1 million worth of property.
It's also a story about singles parties.
Oh, well, you might be interested in talking to a friend of mine. He's a bit of an ace with investments.
And it's about the colourful schemes presented to our luckless investors, from underwriting casinos on cruise liners to property investments in Queensland. And the high-stakes gamble, investing in a poker championship in the South Pacific. Many first employed Comer as their accountant. Others became involved with him through refinancing deals or a high-return loan scheme.
As far as getting money back, there's just no chance.
They're just a few of those brave enough to speak out about how they were duped. We know there were many more who fell foul of one of Martin Comer's schemes. People who between them farewelled hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions. Maybe millions.
The bottom line is this guy should be stopped.
Rob Wickenden invited this group to his home to share a common problem, how to get their money back and to stop others falling into the Martin Comer trap.
Originally, he had advised us that we should be in the market for 4 properties.
Both Rob and Barbara Hunt, another former client of Martin Comer's, were each advised to invest in the negative gearing of property in Brisbane.
He sort of decided that I should be buying 3 properties and start off with 1.
With everything seemingly above board, Rob bought 2 units in this apartment block in Brisbane through a Queensland company called Chemwave Proprietary Limited. Barbara bought 1. Apart from slow settlement, everything proceeded more or less to plan. So Rob bought 2 more.
We'd paid the deposits, which were $35,000 for the 2 units, and he said that I can't sell them. And I said, well, that's fine, just return the deposit. And he said, well, I can't pay, I haven't got the money.
Barbara also got into trouble after she bought 2 more units in a different Brisbane location, sight unseen.
And proceeded with that and then gave him a cheque for that.
For how much?
$17,900.
Barbara Hunt says Martin Comer told her to make out the cheque to the Commonwealth Bank. That money was then quick to disappear from Barbara's Sydney bank account. Martin Comer came here to the Commonwealth Bank at 5 Dock. He signed Barbara Hunt's cheque on the back and was able to withdraw the entire amount of $17,900. Now, the bank isn't commenting on how that was possible, saying the matter is sub judice, because it seems that Barbara Hunt is now taking the bank to court. But the question remains, how on earth was it possible for Martin Comer to draw that amount of money without any authorization? Not knowing her money had gone astray, Barbara wrote out 2 more cheques for Comer. This one for $20,400 to a Queensland property company called Gainpool Proprietary Limited, vendors of the units, and another for $22,000. A move she now regrets, especially considering what she does for a living.
Holding a senior property management position in a real estate company, he must have done a really good job on you to hoodwink you.
Oh, well, I haven't sort of got upset about it for a long, long time, but I guess, you know, I start to think about it now.
What do you think about the man now?
I can't bear him.
Well, you can imagine how Barbara felt. She was pretty excited about buying these 2 units, but with everything that had been going on, she really wasn't quite sure whether the deal had gone through. So armed with the address, she came here to Brisbane to check out her investment. But when she got here, 61 Old Cleveland Road, it seemed as though it was quite a different story. The Because at 6061 there was no block of units, just these two real estate agents. Neither of them knew anything about game pool or any apartments. So fearing she'd lost her $60,000 investment, she quickly got on the phone to Martin Comer.
He just said, oh, you were looking on the wrong road. He said, they're on this road.
That you take the money
3 years later, Barbara has been unable to find out anything more from Martin Comer about the units nor the money she paid.
But what about all these people? I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here, Mr. Comer.
Martin Comer wasn't prepared to talk to us here, but if we put any allegations in writing, he'd be
more than happy to answer any question.
So we wrote to him 3 weeks ago with a number of questions. We're still waiting for a reply. Back in October 1987, Martin Comer was declared a bankrupt in the federal court with unsecured creditors of over $1.25 million. In the official receiver's report at the time, it stated that over the previous 5 years he'd been involved in a number of businesses, all of which had failed. And these included video shops, a restaurant, gambling schemes, villa developments, a string of racehorses, and a loan broking scheme. Comer told the court all his dealings were frozen after an anonymous phone call to the National Australia Bank claimed he had left the country with a suitcase full of money. So despite the fact that this man is officially bankrupt until 1995, it seems that he's found numerous ways to declare himself back in business. First, he decided to sell his practice to a firm of accountants. They were quite happy to come to an arrangement with him whereby he could operate for them as a consultant, as long as he didn't use their letterhead. So gradually, over a number of months, he gained client confidence by doing tax and investment schemes for them, before then introducing them to his next big business venture. Martin Comer's schemes are many and varied. He's actually known as a bit of a gambler, having lost up to $40,000 in just a few days at the tables. So it's not surprising that some of his schemes involve the world of gambling. Ken Ford invested in just one of those deals, losing in the process his $350,000 home. He's now living in rented accommodation, a granny flat, at the back of this house.
Well, it's cost me all up well over 100,000. Well over.
First, Ken was promised hefty interest on a loan he gave Comer. He was told it was money to prop up a travel agency experiencing difficulties.
We're talking $45,000.
Have you seen it since?
No.
Then came the opportunity to get his money back with the South Pacific Poker Championships in Vanuatu.
Yeah, there was glossy brochures printed. The shareholding on that was 50,000. They had to get the tables to Vanuatu quickly. They had a cash shortage and borrowed 20,000, and I was silly enough to supply that for them.
So how much money do you believe was invested altogether in the poker championships?
I think it would have to be somewhere around $500,000, Mark.
It seemed others like Ken Ford had poured good money after bad in an attempt to recoup their losses from other Martin Comer investments which had gone sour, but the gamble never paid off.
So when you caught up with the other investors in Vanuatu, did the penny then drop that you'd all done your money?
We thought something's wrong, so then a little later on...
Comer told me there'd be 200 or 300 players here. It's more like about 30 or 40. So what's going on?
Yeah, it's got me worried. I got 50 grand tied up in this.
I'm in for 100 grand. Trying to get my money back from the other deals Martin Comer's involved me in. That's somehow gone wrong. Have you got money in this too?
I think we've all been done, fellas. Sure, I'm up to my neck in this one.
How much?
200 big ones.
200,000?
Yep. I think we've all done our dough.
Ken Ford claims Comer promised to repay the money, but 16 months later, he's still waiting.
And he more or less puts it in a way, too, that I wouldn't do the wrong thing by you.
And you believed him?
Yes.
He also believed in David Murphy, the man who introduced him to Martin Comer in the first place.
It says this is psychologically sound, this is medically sound, this is logically sound.
The investigators first met David Murphy in 1990. Then we questioned him over the effectiveness of the subliminal tapes he was selling. Now our questions are about the way he introduced potential investors to Martin Comer.
Murphy was caught out by one of these schemes himself, losing $200,000 to Martin Comer. So we thought he might have some interesting things to say about Mr. Comer. He works in this house, so I'm going to ask him a few questions. Hello, David Murphy.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris Simmons from the ABC.
Murphy still works in the subliminal tapes business, but it seems he also devoted his time to running a singles club and organising their functions.
Okay. Well, David,
Before he was prepared to talk, the tape man wanted to tape us taping him. Then it was on to those singles parties, where some members claimed Murphy recruited people with money to invest.
It was not set up for the purpose of introducing people to Martin
No, I
Comer.
wasn't suggesting.
David would talk to people at parties, at these single parties, and say, right, well, you know, you're looking for something to do with your money, now you've sold your house, or you've now got settlement.
Well, to be quite honest, I feel a bit shattered. I've just recently been through a messy divorce settlement.
No, I'm sorry about that.
Well,
G'day.
oh, hi.
Mind if I bust in? I'm David.
Well,
How are you, Wal?
after initial introductions, conversation quickly moved away from general chat to specifics.
Must be horrendous going through a marriage breakup, sorting out who owns what.
Yeah, well, tell me about it. I mean, I can't even begin to describe how the last 3 months have been.
Yeah.
I just want to get my part of the settlement and get my life back in order as quickly as possible. Actually, I am nearly there.
So what are you going to do with the money when you get it? I mean, sorry, not that it's any of my business.
Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about it really.
Oh, well, you might be interested in talking to a friend of mine. He's a bit of an ace with investments.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great.
Actually, he's running a seminar this week. Yeah, look, it'd be worth talking to him. He'd be able to solve any financial problems you've got.
Good. I mean, I need all the help I can get. And what's this guy's name?
Martin Comer. He's very good. He's helped a number of my friends in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
I mentioned it to about 3 or 4, but certainly not to all 4,000 people.
I'm not suggesting it's
Not
all
to the others.
4,000. David, you deny you had any formal relationship with Martin Comer?
There was
Introductions?
nothing, no formal arrangement, nothing in writing.
So why were
Martin
you going
doesn't
out of
put
your way
anything-
to give him new business if there was nothing in it for you?
Well, it wasn't greatly going out of my way. It was just talking to people who I just happened to be in contact with.
So did he receive fees for these introductions or not?
I never received any commissions. If commissions were promised, they weren't received either.
Murphy claims he lost $212,000 to Martin Comer, in particular through the poker championships.
The other one was to have these boats which were going to be sailing around in Singapore, the theoretical casinos, none of which we ever saw, except for boats and photographs we were showed. We were told there were profits coming in. None of us ever got any profits from it.
You might ask, how did so many people part with their cash when most schemes never even left the drawing board?
He seemed to be particularly articulate and knew his stuff about accountancy, so I was impressed at the time.
So were a number of others, people who believed so much in Martin Comer they risked an entire family fortune, in the end losing the lot. Paul Zagoridis and his mother Affie were two others who met Martin Comer through David Murphy. It proved to be a fatal decision that would change the rest of their lives.
How much money have you lost?
Well, the family was worth over $1 million worth of property.
And it's all gone?
All gone.
We were going to sell a number of properties, and he suggested we don't sell any of them. What instead we do is refinance them through the Bank of Melbourne.
Comer said he'd handle it for a $6,000 brokerage fee. At the time, neither Paul nor his mother had the money. They applied to the ANZ Bank for an extension to their overdraft. So Comer got his fee, but he never completed the job of refinancing their properties. It was 1990, and as interest rates went through the roof, they couldn't meet their repayments. The bank moved in. They lost 8 units and 2 houses. Affie was declared bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm also bankrupt now as well, and I was evicted from my unit where I lived.
Now, you've lost tens of thousands of dollars. I understand you actually were running 2 or 3 jobs to get all that money together.
Yes, Chris, I sort of worked 2 or 3 jobs.
Simon Stanton was also introduced to Martin Comer by David Murphy. He claims a lucrative return on an earlier investment saw him drawn to Comer's bigger picture.
I suppose what really made me aware of everything was when I invested quite a bit of money and I failed to get any returns over a period of time.
Simon knew something was wrong when, after losing his money, Comer came up with new ways he could get it back.
The deals, as I went along and as he tried to extract more money from me, became more and more incredible. Anything from buying Rolls Royces at a very cheap rate to selling huge cruise ships to the Greeks.
Simon came to the investigators because he says Comer must be stopped.
He's a parasite.
He believes the authorities are aware of his activities, but for some reason have not acted.
But what answers have you got for people like Rob Wickington, Barbara Hunt, Paul Zacharidis, Ken Ford? What, are they likely to get their money back? Can you tell me that? And can I ask you what your association is with David Murphy? Don't you think these people deserve some sort of answers, Mr. Comer? At what stage might you be prepared to talk to us, Mr. Comer? Sort of answers, Mr. Comer? At what stage might you be prepared to talk to us, Mr. Comer? All these people, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, sir. Don't you think that they deserve some sort of answer? Well, it's quite obvious Mr. Comer doesn't want to talk to us today, and it seems that all these people, we're talking about dozens of people who have lost between them millions of dollars. It means that man has walked away and there are no answers.
No answers, but it leaves several questions and several shattered lives.
If you want to lose your money, believe him.
One thing I am sure of, what goes around comes around, I will see justice done.
Somewhere along the line, he'll get caught up. He has to.
As they always say, get advice from your banker, your lawyer, and your accountants. And if you can't trust your accountants, who can you trust?
The man has to be stopped. He's a menace to society.
But Martin Comer hasn't been stopped. The bankrupt accountant has been able to continue unchecked for the past 5 years. Numerous complaints about him have been directed to the police, the Australian Securities Commission, the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Ombudsman and the Official Receiver's Office. Some have interviewed him, but no one has taken any action to date.